2 days after the 11th of November, Veterans Day, so we always try to recognize those veterans that have served our country so well, and in particular, this evening, I'm going to ask Ryan Smith to come forward. There he comes. Ryan was our bat boy for about 5 or 6 years with the Beatrice Bruins. Went to Lincoln Pius and graduated. How many? When did you graduate?
2012.
2012. And he decided to join the armed forces. They rejected him because he didn't weigh 110 pounds. But he went home, fattened up, and joined the National Guard? Army National Guard. Still serves to this day. And have a little thing here that his father gave me concerning his biography. He was deployed to Kandahar, Afghanistan, part of Operation Freedom. In 2016 and 17, served as a Black Hawk helicopter crew chief, performed over 100 combat medevac rescues, many of them under enemy fire. He earned the Air Medal for heroic and meritorious achievement while participating in aerial flight. He was deployed to help with Hurricane Harvey in September in Texas of 2017. Over 150 people were rescued under his watch, and he earned the Texas Medal of Merit with Valor. He helped with the wildfires in Kansas in 2018. He was then deployed to North Carolina in September of 2018 to help with Hurricane Florence. Sent to help with the Nebraska wildfires in August of 2020. Spent about 9 months deployed to Yuma, Arizona and San Diego, helping the U.S. Border Patrol, where he was the aerial maintenance leader. Upon return home, he was promoted to Aircraft Systems Supervisor at the National Guard in Lincoln. So going from being a 100-pound reject to what we have here, that's a hell of an accomplishment. Okay, I think that concludes the introductions. So we are set to begin the inductions, the first of which will be Ron Douglas presenting Jeff Lisey. Ron?
Check. It's my honor and privilege to present Jeff Lisey for the his induction into the Nebraska Baseball Hall of Fame. If you people would read the cheat sheet, the capsule, it's that green piece of paper, tells you all about his career and why he is listed in that sheet as one of the greatest players in Nebraska baseball history. You read that and you'll understand why he is that. And if you ever watched him play, you will know why he's considered that. I had the pleasure of watching him play, and there's no doubt in my mind that he was one of the greatest players in Nebraska baseball history. There are several of those type of players in this room tonight, and there have been a lot of them over the years, but Jeff certainly ranks in that category. When coaches and scouts go out to look for quality players, they look for 5 and now 6 tool players. And those type of players consist of players that hit for a high batting average, players that hit with power. Well, Jeff certainly had a high batting average, and I thought he had 22 home runs. Bob said he had 26 home runs, and I'm going to go with Bob because who's going to argue with Bob on baseball history? They talk about speed. Jeff certainly had speed. He had speed to burn. Arm, he had a strong arm, an accurate arm, so that covers that base. And defense, he was a great fielder. He consistently made great plays in the outfield. So that's 5, and they've added a 6th category tool now, and that is aggressive play. And Jeff certainly was aggressive on the base paths, and he was aggressive in the outfield. He'd run into walls. He'd do anything to win. So that makes him a 6 tool player. Well, I'm changing personally the rating on that. I'm making him a 10 tool player. And here's how I'm expanding that. The 7th tool I have for him is being a great teammate. He would do anything for his team to win. He wasn't concerned with his own statistics. He was concerned about winning. And so that makes him a great teammate. Now, on the teams that went to the College World Series, there were great teammates, many, and he was one of them, and that's why they went to the College World Series. That makes him a 7 tool player. Okay, he was a very intelligent player. If you read further on that sheet, it tells you that he was picked as the #1 student athlete in D1 sports. We're not just talking about baseball, we're talking about all sports. We're talking about women's sports, men's sports. I guess that's all there is. And I won't go any further yet. Anyway, think about that. The #1, the best student athlete in the nation. I think that deserves a hand right now. So that makes him an 8 tool player. For a 9 tool player, I rank him as a nice guy. Okay, that may be a stretch and it may not. I think baseball needs nice guys these days. And he certainly is a nice guy. He's nice to his teammates, nice to the press, nice to the fans, and he's not one of these guys that beats his chest when he hits a sacrifice fly. He doesn't throw his bat, flip his bat, and in general, he's not self-aggrandizing, or was not self-aggrandizing. So that's another tool. It makes him a 9 tool player. So what could possibly make him a 10 tool player? Well, Jeff is a survivor. Now, how did I get there? He spent a summer ball, living in Bob Steinkamp's basement amongst his cats. And he was allergic to cats. And he never said a word, he never complained. He just went out there and played hard every day, and that makes him a 10 tool player. Let's have a big hand for Jeff Lizey. Would you come up here, Jeff? Get your plaque and say a few words to your adoring fans.
Thanks, Ron. Thank you.
You're the best.
Thank you. That was true. You want me to take that from you?
That'd be great. Sit down. I got so bad.
Get there. Good, Ron. How about that? I disagree with a lot of that. I mean, I think I was a 1 tool player, and the last one is correct. I did spend a summer in Bob's basement, allergic to cats. And Bob will probably tell a story about that later tonight, but that's totally true. Thank you, Ron, for the kind words. Anybody knows Ron, he's a storyteller, he's an embellisher, and I think probably told my resume better than it actually is, but thank you, Ron. Thank you to the committee. It's truly an honor, and it's a cool night, cool celebration. It's a great class to be a part of. I mean, obviously, a teammate and friend, Alex Gordon, Jeff Christie, a coach at Nebraska, and a friend as well. Chris Gradeville, a guy that, to me, I'd never played with Chris. I didn't have the honor of playing with Chris, but a guy I knew, and truly one of the most amazing human beings that I've ever gotten to know. So, I mean, this is a fantastic class, and I'm honored to be a part of it. A few thank yous quick. I mean, I think it starts for me with my parents, my mom and dad. My dad's passed away, but my mom's here tonight. My brothers and sisters, I have one brother that's here, a couple brothers and sisters that aren't here, but I think baseball for me started as a young kid. My dad was a big baseball player, and probably like a lot of people, taught me the game, and a lot of father-son bonding, that kind of thing happened with my dad through baseball and throughout the years, and he was my first coach, and definitely learned a lot from him. So again, thank you to my parents and my family. Friends and teammates. I mean, I've been so blessed in my life. Had phenomenal teammates, phenomenal friends that pushed me to be a better person, a better player each and every day. So again, thank them. My coaches in high school. I'll go to my high school coaches, Pat Mooney and Mike Culver. Were phenomenal high school coaches. In college, Coach Childress is here tonight, right? Coach Childress. And actually, here's a good story. Coach Childress, I think, probably would have let me go after my freshman year, because as a freshman in college, I was not good. I was bad as a freshman in college, and I'm pretty sure Coach Childress wanted me to be on my way, but fortunately, Coach Van Horn and the others gave me a second chance. But Coach Childress, Coach Mike Anderson, Coach Dave Van Horn, again, we had phenomenal coaching staff at the University of Nebraska. Bob Steinkamp, right? Again, I lived with Bob, and to me, that was really a turning point in my college career. I just said that a terrible freshman year of college, and lived with Bob between my freshman and sophomore year in Beatrice, and played for the Beatrice Bruins, and had a great experience. I think for me, gave me a lot of confidence and probably renewed passion for the game as well. And so again, I owe a lot of that to Bob and the Beatrice Bruins. So I know Bob's sweating back here, that might roast him here, but I do owe Bob, a ton of gratitude and thanks, and he was a big part of my success. So, and then obviously my wife, Jackie, our kids. We've got our kids here. So Henry, Olivia, Lauren, our kids. I've got a tremendous family. Her family's here. Her dad Herb and her mom Sharon, and then her brother Tom is here as well. So again, I have a lot of thank yous. A couple things just personally. I know Bob told me that the longest speech up here has been 32 minutes, so I'm pushing for 33, trying to set a record. I'll wrap this up, but I'll say this: I think I was a good player growing up, but not great. I wasn't one of the best players growing up. I didn't make all the teams I tried out for, but I think that always pushed me to work harder and do a little bit more. I'm fortunate that I had a little bit of talent, at least in baseball. I love baseball, and I worked hard at it, and always tried to continue getting better. But I think for me, the thing you miss, like people always ask, like, what do you miss about baseball? And you miss the game, and you miss everything about it. But I think it's the locker room. And Coach Bolt was a teammate and friend of mine. It's the locker room stuff. It's the camaraderie. It's the hanging out with the guys and the blood, sweat, and tears, and all the stuff that you go through in those relationships, and that's the stuff that you miss. But again, I've been truly blessed in my life with great people, great support system, great people around me in my life, great friends and family, and I truly am. I'm so blessed, so thankful for everything in my life. And again, I'm grateful that I found something I love, I was able to work hard at, and I had a little bit of talent at. It's something that I tell my kids all the time. I don't care if it's baseball or another sport or any other activity. Find what you love and work hard at it. So I'm thankful for this opportunity. I'm thankful to be up here, and thank you all. Thank you.
Couple of additional comments. He's right. He wasn't a very good player as a freshman, and Van Horn asked me, would you take this guy on and see if you can make a good player out of him, and he got pretty good after that. Nobody mentioned that in the history of Nebraska baseball, that guy's got the second most hits of any player in NU history. That's pretty good. Concerning the cats, we did have 3 cats. My wife very fond of them, and he never said a word about being allergic to cats when he lived in my basement. About 6 months ago, I had him in as a keynote speaker at Southeast Community College's athletic banquet, and afterwards he informed me, he says, I really didn't have a very good time living with you. I said, well, that's nice. I said, why is that? Food wasn't good or what? He goes, no, I was allergic to cats, and that one kept wanting to sleep with me. And so I said, I wish you would have spoke up at the time, because either you or the cats would have been gone 20 years ago, and I don't think it would have been the cats. Our next inductee is a guy named Eddie Brown, and Lynn Shaleski will be the presenter and tell us about him.
Thank you. You know, when we get ready to do these nominations every year, and I forget when we went over these, Paul, what month was that? Just
A long time
quite a
ago.
while back. So if you have someone for next year, get them in advance, because we don't just do it a month or two ahead of time. But I'm saying that to say this. Actually, I'm going to have Monty Nielsen talk more about Eddie Brown, because when I read it, his resume at the table, everybody thought, oh my God, what a shoo-in, and none of us heard of the guy. Because he's one of these old-time ball players, you know, way back in the day. He was born in Milligan, but he's raised in Ohio, just a couple little bitty old towns out there. And I'm not going to steal Monty's thunder, because this guy's like a pro rider. Really thankful. He's one of our oldest player here tonight. The guy was born in 1891. But Monty worked for K-State, and he's done a lot of, I would call it very professional sports type writing. His stuff like for SABR, the Society for American Baseball Research. Several of his write-ups accompany the people we have in our Hall of Fame. I think Val Heim was one of them. Russ Snyder, I believe he did a write-up on him. And Ralph Terry is just a good friend from Kansas, but Ralph Terry, a famous Yankee pitcher, has spoken at a couple of these banquets, you know, over the years, and sadly we lost Ralph. But Monty did a nice write-up with him, met with him in Larned, and I used to live in Larned too for a little while back in the day. But saying all that, Monty Nielsen, would you come on up here and tell us more about Eddie Brown, please? Monty's going to be the recipient, you know, because as far back as that is, don't know about any family members that we're aware of. So Monty's not only did the write-up, he's going to be there to accept the award.
Thank you, Lynn. I am most honored to receive this award on behalf of the late Eddie Brown. I always will cherish it. Further, I want to thank so many members of my family who are here tonight, son, daughter, nieces, nephews, brothers and sisters-in-law, and just a wonderful family. I would like to dedicate this award, however, to Ann S. Nielsen. Ann was my wife of almost 50 years, and she perished in a car accident back in September. And it's been hard, but I'm moving on. And she's here with me tonight in my heart. So I want to say rest easy and God bless you, Ann. Okay, I want to tell you a little bit about Eddie Brown. He was a great hitter and a superb defender for the New York Giants, Brooklyn Robins, and Boston Braves of the 1920s. His Achilles heel, however, was the oft-noted weakness of his throwing arm. The nickname Glass Arm Eddie Brown is how you'll often see him referred to, which is also the same as bursitis, has frequently been appended to his given name. While playing in the Army League during World War I, the Geneva, Nebraska Signal noted that Brown had, quote, a bad arm, due to a fractured right wrist caused by a pitched ball. And that had kept him out of the big show. Edward William Brown was born in 1891 in Milligan, as Lynn has mentioned. He graduated from high school in 1908 at Ohio. In 1913, Brown was traded from a Bruning, Nebraska town team to an up-and-coming Norfolk ball club for, quote, a keg of beer, which I read Eddie helped his former teammates consume before he departed Bruning. However, rather than going to Norfolk, he went instead to the another team in the Nebraska State League, the Superior Brickmakers, who, and that was deep into the season. The first day that he joined the club, Eddie played shortstop, and future Hall of Fame pitcher Dazzy Vance pitched for the Superior team. As a rookie, Brown hit .426 in 18 games. But Brown's career got stalled in the low minors after not ascending above Class D ball for 5 full seasons. So in 1917, in the middle of World War I, he enlisted in the United States Army Air Service. He was honorably discharged in 1919. Brown joined the Texas League San Antonio Broncos in 1920. His manager, Mike Finn, said that, quote, "He is the greatest outfielder in the minor leagues. If he had an arm which could throw the ball to the plate from the outfield, he'd be in the big show today." His 1920 campaign was the first of 5 200-hit seasons that he assembled as a professional. Batting .325 in late season, he received a big league call-up from the second-place New York Giants. They were managed by future Hall of Famer John McGraw. He was used sparingly by the Giants in 1921, and he was traded to the Indianapolis Indians of the American Association. In 1922, Brown hit .338 and led the Indians in batting average, hits, doubles, triples tied, and was second in home runs and slugging percentage. 1923 he did the same thing, only that year he hit .361 while stockpiling 224 base hits. In the off-season, 1923-24, Brown traveled to Cuba where he played winter baseball, hit .303, and he was given cold water treatment for his ailing arm, which he said later was very helpful. 1924, Brown was traded to the National League Brooklyn Robins when he'd again join a team where Dazzy Vance would be his teammate, and he was on the mound the night that Eddie joined the team, June 5. Two greats brought together again. Eddie was slotted into the outfield. Robins' manager, future Hall of Famer Wilbert Robinson, had very high praise for Eddie Brown, and this is what he said about him in late season in 1924. Quote, he said, "He's what I call a real ball player. He's the best fly catcher in either of the big leagues. One thing that makes Brown a valuable player is that he's in the game from beginning to end. Whether the club is winning or losing, he's working all the time. He's what I call a model ball player, forgetting himself and playing for the good of the entire club." And he closed by saying the game could well stand more players of the Ed Brown type. But then, less than 2 weeks later, Brooklyn traded Eddie Brown to the Boston Braves. In 1926, he had the finest season of his major league career. He hit .328, topped the league in base hits with 201, had led the league also in singles with 160. Further, he had top 10 finishes in all offensive categories. He also finished 15th in the NL MVP vote for that season. Sports writer Jim Murphy proclaimed in 1926 that, quote, "Brown is the greatest outfielder of the present day. The Cubs told how Eddie raced to the scoreboard and plucked one of Rick Stevenson's prodigious wallops out of the air with his bare hand. And gloves weren't very big either back in the day of Eddie Brown. In 1927, Eddie Brown played in his 534th consecutive game, establishing a then National League record, which ended in 1928 after 618 consecutive games played. The 28 Boston Braves derailed to a 50-103 record, and Brown also tailed off to 268, his first time under 300 since joining the Robins. The curtain had dropped on Eddie Brown's major league career. His final MLB slash line was a consistent 303, 334, 400. Still, he continued to play minor league baseball, played under Casey Stengel with the Toledo Mud Hens in 1929. And remaining competitive, he went home to Nebraska in 1932 when at age 41, he played and managed in 147 games for the Omaha Packers of the Western League. He corralled 204 base hits and batted .352. In 1936, Brown managed the Fairbury Jeffs of the reincarnated Nebraska State League. However, they folded at mid-season, but he was also an owner and sponsor of the club. At all professional levels, Eddie Brown wrapped 2,852 base hits, unofficially a .314 clip, while amassing 3,751 total bases, which I calculated out at being 64 miles of base path. It's quite a lot of running. Eddie Brown died on September 10, 1956. He was buried with full military honors at the Golden Gate National Cemetery near San Francisco, California. Ty Cobb, Hall of Famer Ty Cobb, once said, quote, "I played about half my career with a glass arm," proving that a glass arm isn't always an impediment to baseball greatness. Thank you.
Just get a picture, please. So I did just want to point out real quick too, that I hate to overlook this. Some of you know Tom Ulrich. He's our webmaster for the Baseball Hall of Fame. So he goes around, takes a lot of photos and things like that. His daughter Emily has been helping for a few years also. Say hello to Emily. I really thank all the ladies that helped out at the table too, Maureen and Diane and Belinda and Jan. Wouldn't know what to do without you. Really appreciate your help.
Next inductee will be Ken Vergeth. So if he would please come forward, and Mark Mancuso will be his presenter.
Okay. Well, I officiated a wedding yesterday, so I'd like to say if anyone knows just cause why Ken Vergeth should not enter the Hall of Fame, let him speak now or forever hold his peace. If you look over the green copy of the capsules, you'll see why Ken Vergeth is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. He threw 3 no-hitters at Kearney State College. And sorry, Nebraska, he's the only Kearney State College pitcher to ever beat the Huskers. In doing so, he won 1-0 over the Huskers. What year was that?
76.
76. In 1976, the score was 1-0 at the time.
Yeah.
And Ken missed the pickoff sign at second base. There was a man on first and second, and because he missed the pickoff sign, he threw home, and Norm Glissman, some of you know Norm from years ago, good baseball player, hit a line drive up the middle, shortstop caught it, stepped on second, through to first, triple play, and they won 1-0.
I put him into position.
I've enjoyed talking to Ken. Ken gives credit primarily to two people, Guy Murray, the coach at Kearney State College, and I think Guy has two of his children with us tonight, and his mother, who was a great sports fan and an intellectual. She was valedictorian of her high school class and valedictorian of her college class. And so I asked Ken, did you inherit her intellect? And he kind of avoided that question.
Skipped a generation.
Yeah. And said,
My niece got it though.
he moved on to a different subject. But 3 no-hitters, a win over the Huskers. When I talked to him, it appeared he had one of these iron arms. He was drafted after his sophomore year at Kearney. He was asked to try out the next 2 years, but by the end of his college career, his arm was shot. And that was the end of baseball. And yet, he is very deserving and an excellent pitcher. And I would dare to say the best pitcher to ever play for Kearney State College or the University of Nebraska Kearney. Here he is. Welcome, Ken Vergett.
Thank you very much for the nice words. Hey, you're really gonna leave this on for me, right? Yeah. Wow, okay. No, thank you very much, Mark. I really appreciate that. First, I'd like to thank Bob Steinkamp and the entire Hall of Fame Board of Directors for this honor. Thank you very much. I would like to thank Mark Honor, a friend of mine. Thank you for nominating me for the Hall of Fame. And I would also like to congratulate my fellow inductees for their honors to the Hall of Fame. I gotta say, I really feel like I'm walking in tall cotton here with this group. And I mean, take Alex for example. He's won more gold gloves than I bought gloves. So there's that. I once was told that a good speech was the 3 B's. You begin, you be good, and you be gone. So I'm going to try to do that here for you. Several years ago, I attended an induction ceremony out at Kearney. There was a gentleman getting inducted that night, and he told a little story. And it's resonated in me ever since in my life. And it goes something like this. Imagine yourself walking down a gravel road, nobody and nothing around anywhere. You walk and you walk and you walk, and all of a sudden you kind of look over. And there's a big turtle on top of this fence post, and all 4 legs are just going in the air. Well, there's only 1 or 2 conclusions you can come up with, and one of them's got to be, he didn't get there by himself. Well, to be honored with this award, I didn't get here by myself either. My parents and my grandparents were my greatest fans. My mom, my grandma, they always made sure I had a ball, bat, and glove and a bicycle to get to the ballpark. Well, Grandpa comes into play with the bicycle. Our neighborhood ball diamond was just laced with sandburr patches all over the place. And I would invariably ride through them, and I'd be pushing my bike home at the end of the night to Grandma's house, and she made Grandpa fix them tires. So for many a nights, I sat on that back porch, and I watched Grandpa fix that too. And I can promise you, this is the formula that works for fixing a tire. 3 screwdrivers, 2 crescent wrenches, a tube tire repair kit, 2 scuff knuckles, 2 shots of Calvert whiskey, and a whole bunch of cuss words. Tire fixed. Next, I'd like to thank my wife, Diane. For 30 years, she has kept me in my lane. I admire her for knowing when to say yes, and I admire her for knowing when to say no. Mostly, I thank her for helping me build my Christian foundation. She's my companion, best friend, and the one that completes me. Love you, Di. I want to thank my son, Casey, and his wife, Megan, and my daughter, Candace, and my grandchild, Amira, for traveling to be here with us tonight. I want to thank my brother, Keith, and his wife, Lindy, and my sister, Carrie, and her husband, Tim, for also being here. And first of all, I want to apologize, Keith and Carrie, for all the ball games you got drugged to in our youth.
I'd do it again.
I'd let you. And I'd also like to thank you for being 2 true pillars of strength in my life. I thank you so much. I also want to thank brother-in-law Jeff Freeman and Cindy, and my brother-in-law Rick and Cindy Roars, who could not be here with us tonight. Usually they play music when you turn the page to kind of fill in. And I'd also like to thank my many nieces and nephews and all my family friends for being here for me tonight. I really appreciate that. Next, I would like to thank a few teammates. I have been very blessed to play with some great ball players. From Fremont, catchers Keith Ringel and Gordy Echtenkamp, and Bob Veering as a player. From Kearney State, I'd like to acknowledge Bill Gradeville, who is actually here tonight, and Steve Veronault and Brad Stallings, and players Mitch Johnson, Max Mader, Dave Pratt, and probably 150 more. But thank you all for being teammates. I mean, I played with some really good guys, so thank you. Next, I'd like to mention just a few coaches. My first baseball coach in Fremont was Mel Secchi. My Legion coach was Gary Schmidt. And my semi-pro town team coach was Denny Johansson from Osceola. Now, in the late summer of '72, I pitched Fremont's first game at the State Legion tournament at Rosenblatt Stadium. We won 8-3. And I was making my way back up to my family in the stands, and a gentleman stops me and asks me, "Son, where are you going to college?" And I says, "Well, I'm not going to college. I'm the oldest of 7 in a divorced family, and my mom can't afford to put me through school." And I didn't know it at the time, but I was about to hear some of the most important words of my life. And he says, "Well, I'm Coach Guy Murray from Kearney State, and I want you to come play baseball for me." And I wasn't going to cry. Coach Murray gave me the opportunity to play college baseball. He gave me the opportunity to get my college education. He allowed me to meet some of my closest friends in my life to this day, and also gave me the opportunity to mature into an adult and prepare me for the rest of my life. Coach Murray's not with us, but his wife Cheryl is here, and son Tony are here, and I want you to know how much I appreciate that, and I share this award with you, because without Guy Murray, I'm not here. In closing, I'd just like to say, I don't know if I chose baseball or baseball chose me, but I do know the good Lord gave me some talent, and he gave me the sense enough to use it. And he also did something else for me. He put a lot of influential people in front of me in my life, and it served me very well. So thank you all for being here tonight, and I be gone.
Good job. Picture here.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Thank you.
Our last inductee before we have our widely anticipated live auction. We've got some great items for you this evening. Will be Jeff Christie. Jeff Christie went to Lincoln Southeast. I think his teammate was Alex Gordon. Matter of fact, one of those two guys was drafted out of high school by the Los Angeles Dodgers, and it wasn't Alex Gordon. It was Jeff Christie. He was always, anytime I saw him, he was just a plus defensive player. He was a great catch and throw guy. If I had to, over the 40 years that I had the Bruins, had to pick the best catcher of that 40-year period, it would be a toss-up. There's another guy in Omaha named Joe Siwa, who Nebraska did not recruit at the time, so he went to Auburn and played with Frank Thomas and some people like that. And great catch and throw guy, as was Jeff. Both of them were good hitters, but over the 40 years, those are the two guys that to me were the best catchers I ever had. He went to Barton County after his senior year at Lincoln Southeast, and then came back and played for the University of Nebraska. He just kept getting better and better. Made himself a really good hitter, especially a clutch hitter. And then he was, without question, could throw and catch with anybody in the country. So he signed in the 6th round after his senior year by the Minnesota Twins. He had this guy playing in front of him named Joe Mauer, who won a couple of American League batting titles and is in the Hall of Fame, or will be if he isn't already. So that's kind of a roadblock. However, he played 5 years of pro ball before he went back and went into the coaching fraternity. Right now, he's a pitching coach at the University of Nebraska. And the other thing I got to tell you, his mother graduated with probably the greatest class ever from Beatrice High School, June Reimers. That's the same class I graduated in, 1966. So now we know how old you are, June. Off the field, doesn't get any better. I never heard a guy, any person ever say a bad word about Jeff Christie. He's a really good person, makeup, in other words, as a scout, that's what we call that. Great teammate, and played 2 years for me, and was mad when I didn't ask him back for a third year. That was not my idea, that was Dave Van Horn that did that. But I have nothing but good things to say about Jeff, so come on up here and get your plaque.
Thank you, Bob. Going back to that third year, I did get to spend the summer in Santa Barbara, California, so I don't think that was too bad. on that side. But yes, going back to the story there about 2002 when I was drafted, that was back when there was 49 rounds, actually 50, but now there's only 20. Coach Brollers at the time said, hey, there's a scout coming to watch somebody play. And I was like, well, what's going on? He's like, yeah, I think his name was Alex Gordon, but I wasn't really sure if that was the right move or not, so he obviously chose me instead. Sorry, Al. But well, yeah, just what an evening, what a night, great turnout. Thanks for everybody for coming here. Thank you for the Nebraska Baseball Hall of Fame for putting this on. Congratulations to the other inductees. Yeah, just a great evening to be standing up here. It's an honor and a privilege to be up here with you guys. But you know, for me, just a kid growing up in Lincoln, Nebraska, I think my parents can tell you guys this, that I always had a ball in my hand, whether it was football, basketball, baseball, you know, hitting a tennis ball against the garage door. That's all I wanted to do was play sports. And I think the only stat that my parents really cared or didn't like was the fact that it's not in the green piece of paper there, where it's I had probably 5 broken windows, 3 dents in a car, and about a broken basketball rim. So that's one that they really probably remember the most. But I wasn't the most athletic kid growing up. Wasn't the fastest, wasn't the strongest. But I can tell you this, I was pretty competitive, and that was probably what made me be who I was on the field, was my competitiveness. You know, from a little point in it might have been a little bit before high school, somebody was like, do you even know what a 6-pack is? And I go, yeah, my dad has this in the basement. So, anyways, but I really need to thank, you know, one of the most instrumental people when I was growing up to play baseball, to get me onto the catching scene, was Barry Mosley. I was playing for the Lincoln Sox. I was about 9 or 10 years old. He said, hey, maybe you should go out there and try this catching thing. I was like, well, why? Don't the non-athletes go back there? He's like, no, I think you'd love it. And next thing you know, I go back there, and I fell in love with the position. I mean, you couldn't get me away from it. It was just, you're in the moment, you know, helping the pitchers out. You're invested every play of the game. So I really have to thank him on that side of getting me on the catching side of baseball. That meant a lot. So, you know, as we go through this process, I have to thank, you know, obviously my family. I have my mom's side of the family's here, my dad's here, and I can say this, my dad never missed a game. I think he missed maybe 4 games. I shouldn't say never missed, but he missed 4 games in my whole career. And so I want to thank you for that, showing the support from the early age. My mom, when we went family vacations in the summertime, where might even be in another state, and she's like, well, you got a baseball game tomorrow, like, we're gonna go. So 3 a.m., we're driving back to Lincoln, get into the game, and next thing you know, after the game, we're going back to the family vacation. So appreciate you doing that. Never missed a moment. It was just something that I'll never forget on that side of it. So to my wife, thank you for all the support that you've given me throughout the years. Little thing about Michelle is, she didn't know this, but she said there's 2 people in the world she wouldn't marry. One would be a farmer and one would be a coach. And there was actually a point in time where I was a little bit of a farmer. My brother-in-law Trevor's here, helped him on the grain cart one time, and yeah, so she lost both of those, but thank you very much. You know, but and obviously my kids too. Quinn, Stella, Griffin, you guys are here, and I see the joy in your guys' faces when you guys go to the games, and I'm watching those, and it's really exciting to see that joy and passion that you guys have, even though if you're yelling at me every now and then. So. But with that said, thank you very much. What a great night. Let's have a little bit more fun. Thank you.
Ask Mike Metz to do the presentation for Chris Gradaville.
Okay, I'm going to make this short and let the better people take over. Chris, after he got done playing pro ball, had moved to Spokane, Washington, where he met Nikki, his wife. And he was a couple of years, he coached at Whitworth University up in Washington.
And he also started his own Sports Academy Performance Center in Spokane, where he was instructor helping out for all sports, not just baseball. And he was also in the Big Brother program in Spokane, where he helped mentor a 9-year-old kid and went hunting, fishing, sports, just hung out. So not only was Chris great on the field, he was great off the field. And Chris came from a great family, the Gradavilles, from grandfather to father to nephews to uncles. They all played baseball. So I grew up in that same neighborhood, and Gradaville family is a legend name. So I will turn the rest of this over to his wife Nikki and Chris's sister Stephanie.
Wow, you guys, this is incredible. Talk about being out of your league. That is what we are up here. This is something we are so humbled, so grateful for to take on behalf of, or to accept on behalf of Christopher. We have such a heavy heart around it with him not being here, because he would do a heck of a better job talking shop with you guys about all of the good stuff. Fortunately, you're not going to get any shop talk from me. You're welcome. But I am going to thank the committee for this honor. It is just so humbling for Chris to be amongst this group of honorees. I'm so just baffled by the name, Alex Gordon, that's great. I did not expect that. So we are completely humbled on behalf of my parents, Ron and Joyce, who are here today. They are beaming with pride. You have to know what this does for my parents. To put your son and sacrifice everything that you have sacrificed for your kid to get to just high school ball, then to collegiate ball, and then to make it to the minors. This is everything to them. So I am so humbled to be able to stand here on behalf of my brother to accept this. One of the honorees talked about that he didn't get here alone. That is absolutely what this is all about. The village that filled these tables today, thank you so much, every single one of you that is sitting in one of those chairs. This means the world that you showed up for us, because we are nervous as hell. Because, again, we're just kind of out of our league up here, but we are beaming with pride. And I'm going to turn it over to his better half, the reason we're here, Ms. Nikki Gradaville.
So I met Chris June of 2007. So unfortunately, I did not get to watch him live out chase his dream in high school and college. But I got the privilege of watching him live out his dream as he played pro ball for Texas Rangers. So I was the marketing director for the first team that he went and played for. So baseball is actually how our journey started. And so it's just such an honor to be here. It stinks that I'm accepting this award on his behalf. I would give anything to have him be here, but I just want to say thank you so much. Like Stephanie said, it took a village, I'm sure, for him to get where he is, and to all of his coaches, to all of his mentors, to all of his teammates that are here. Thank you so much to his family, to his friends, aunts, uncles, cousins. Thank you so much. We love you. And this last year has been a journey, and we would not be here without any of you guys. So thank you. And we love you, Chris.
Present the plaque for Chris to be inducted in the Nebraska Baseball Hall of Fame. Thank you very much. Next inductee is Charlie Cologne from Lincoln. Come on up here, Charlie. Who's his presenter? Who's his presenter? Me. Okay. Jerry Bender will do the honors.
Thanks, Bob. I got to say one thing real quickly here that actually goes back a few years, but there's a fella here tonight that technically I nominated technically for the Nebraska Hall of Fame, Baseball Hall of Fame, and how that happened was I'd mentioned to Bob about a baseball game at the College World Series, and I said, Hendricks, I said, I sounds so familiar to me. And Bob says it should. He's been one of the best, if not the best umpire, around these parts or any other parts. And I said, do you think he might be interested in coming down? He was the umpire in chief at the College World Series. And Bob says, well, give him a call. So I did. He took my call, or he actually returned my call, and we visited, and I told him we'd sure like to have him come down and be a member of the Hall of Fame, as well as, he ended up being our speaker for that evening. So that was great. I got to nominate an umpire. He got to come, he came down and did just a heck of a job. Except one thing went wrong is I had an emergency surgery. So what happened was I called him, started to make arrangements via Bob, and technically I was the one that nominated him, I guess, even though he had plenty of credentials. And he came down, such a great job. I've never met the guy. Hi, Jeff. So maybe we'll have a chance afterwards to speak just a little bit. Let me get one thing here. Just a second. There's one name I gotta remember there. There we go. There's a reason. I usually don't write a lot of notes, but I kind of wanted to get this right because it involves a family. And a family, really, I guess, baseball, if you want to call them a baseball family, this is certainly a family that I'd nominate. Charlie is a lifelong Nebraskan. I guess maybe for a short period of time he was gone. I'm not sure. He can talk about that. But both his grandfather and his father are members of the Nebraska Baseball Hall of Fame. So he told me how special that was. And he's, I believe, played and or coached for over 40 years. But interestingly enough, and this is why I need my note, Charlie, his brother, Mickey, Charlie and his brother Mickey were named after Mickey Mouse. And Charlie's two children also have baseball-related names. His daughter's name is Mackenzie, right, Mackenzie? And she was born on Mickey Mantle's birthday. That's very, very nice of you to do that. Keep it in the family there. And his son's legal name is Cooperstown, right? And I know he had some other special people here in his family with him tonight, and we're really glad that you all showed up. And that leads me to the introduction and welcoming to the Nebraska Baseball Hall of Fame, Charlie Cologne.
That is the truth, you guys.
So my grandfather came to the States in 1929 on a Methodist scholarship from Puerto Rico. The missionaries took him to Yankee Stadium, saw Ruth and Gary get back-to-back home runs that day, became a lifelong Yankee fan. My dad then grew up a Mickey Mantle fan, named me and my brother after Mickey Mantle. It's Mickey Charles Mantle, so my brother's obviously Mickey, I'm Charlie. We grew up Don Mattingly fans. We really didn't have a choice, I'm going to be honest, like pinstripes were the way it was going to work in our family. And then we had our daughter Mackenzie. We spelled it M-C-K-Y-N-Z-I-E. She was breech, so we got to choose the date, October 20th, which is Mantle's birthday. My son's legal name is Cooperstown, Michael Charles for Mickey Mantle. We took him to Cooperstown. They made him a lifelong member. And I have little doubt, you guys, that with a lot of counseling, you'll get through most of this. With that being said, thank you, Bob, and to the committee. This is a very humbling evening, an incredible journey through memory lane in a lot of regards, but with a lot of familiar faces. To the Grattoville family, thank you so much for being here. At Chick-fil-A, we talk a lot about everybody has a story. And so we think about our customers that way, we think of our employees that way. I'm incredibly inspired by your courage and your kindness and your gratitude. And so if there was anything that set the stage for this evening, you did it well. So thank you. It is true, our family and the love of the game started at a young age, going to many baseball and softball games. My dad, thank goodness, is here with us tonight along with my mom. My dad, actually, you guys, is in the Nebraska Softball Hall of Fame and the Nebraska Baseball Hall of Fame. Very unique thing to have. But he always instilled, as did my mom, a couple of things. Number one, always protect your family name. And number two, play the game the right way. And Dad, on a number of occasions, would consistently say, son, just compete. I need you to compete well. Winning matters, but I need you to compete well. Make sure that you look your opponent in the eye. Make sure you shake their hand after the game, win or lose. And make sure you wear your uniform and hat correctly. And those sorts of simple things were always instilled at a very young age. So thank you to you guys for helping raise us the right way and to love a game that literally goes on today. Thank you to my lovely wife who puts up with me still coaching today. Played and coached in college, somehow got roped back into coaching at Lincoln Christian this year. And to my kids who put up with the crazy schedule of owning a restaurant and allowing me to coach as well. I also didn't get here alone, had some amazing teammates, you guys, from Kenny Ramos to Bruce Wobkin, Greg Thorell, my roommates Billy Vosick, Dale Castidas, John Verratti, and the list goes on. Teammates that I still talk to today on a frequent basis relative to Husker baseball, Husker football, or just as we do life together. But there were two specific teammates that stood out in my career. Number one was Mark Honor. Mark is a Hall of Fame pitcher from Lincoln, and I got to be his catcher for a number of years. Lanky, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for teaching me the game. And thank you for coaching with me at Nebraska Westland. I actually had a little bit of a unique story. I started out at the University of Nebraska. I redshirted my first year. As a freshman, I was a 15-15 guy, which meant that if we were up 15 or down 15, that's when I got in the game. Started my sophomore year. We had 3 guys go down with elbow injuries in my junior year, so I turned into a pitcher and pitched my junior year. And life was great. I loved being a Husker. It was my lifelong goal, and there was nobody more proud to wear that Husker letter jacket on campus, even on a warm May afternoon. But my brother signed to play baseball at Nebraska Wesleyan University, where my granddad had been the dean of admissions. My dad had played baseball. And after lots of thought and prayer, decided I would transfer so I could play and be a teammate with my brother. It's one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make because I absolutely loved everything about the University of Nebraska. But in 1991, it was probably the most special year I ever had as a player. And so, Mick, thanks for being an awesome teammate. There was simply no year that I would ever replace. Some amazing coaches. Coaches that really taught us to go the extra mile, from John Sanders, Ron Bachman, Rich Russo, and two that consistently stuck out. Bill Fegler, my high school coach at Lincoln Northeast, took a chance on a really small catcher that needed to gain some weight and learn how to play the game, but always had incredible faith and was an incredible encourager. And there was not a game, whether I went 0 for 4 or 4 for 4, where you were not in my corner and consistently encouraging not only me, but everybody else. And Coach, there's a reason you're in the Hall of Fame, and by far one of the best coaches that I've ever had in my life. And my best coach by far, and I'm sure this will come as no surprise, is my dad. So Dad was the one that always taught us to go the extra mile, and I believe that's biblical if I'm not mistaken. In Matthew 5:41, it says something to the effect of, if somebody asks you to go 1 mile, you might as well go the second mile. And so whether it was taking extra BP, lifting extra weights, learning very quickly at the University of Nebraska that Sunday practices were not optional. There's a joke there, you guys, I know how this works, but I didn't show up the first Sunday to optional practices, and on Monday I learned that I really needed to. And I never missed another Sunday in 4 years. I wasn't good enough to show up late. I wasn't good enough to skip practices. I was a grinder, you guys. But Dad, you were the one that instilled the work ethic and the one that continued to not only encourage, but just kept pushing us in a way that was built out of love. Dad, you are simply an amazing coach. I absolutely loved playing, and then had the opportunity in 1997 to go coach at Nebraska Westland. I did that 2 different stints. But the absolute best privilege I ever had as a coach was coaching you, Miss McKenzie, as a varsity player at Lincoln East on the softball team, and many summers. And Coop, coaching you in summer baseball at Lincoln East, and also coaching this last summer at Lincoln Christian, which somehow, some way, we pulled out a state championship at the JV level. And I've never actually felt that level of seeing coaching my kids through Dad's eyes like I have these last many years with both you and Mackenzie. We absolutely love the game. We are most grateful for the life lessons it has taught us. And one of the things I tell our folks at Chick-fil-A is I'm still a baseball player, I just happen to sell chicken sandwiches right now. Because all of those life lessons about grit, determination, and resilience are something that we carry with us today. Most importantly, the lifelong relationships that we've made in the past and we will continue to make in the future are why we love this great game of baseball. So to all of the folks that are getting in tonight, thank you. To all of your family members, friends, and those that have supported us along this journey, thank you. Let's play on some more. God bless you.
All right, we move on to the last inductee for this evening. That's a guy by the name of Alex Gordon. One of my happiest days as a coach for the Beatrice Bruins was I was sitting in Rob Childress's office one day that spring, that first spring after Alex was a freshman, and I was always scrounging around for the best players I could finally find at the university. We were allowed 4 players, and lo and behold, Rob Childress says, you know, Alex Gordon told me that he'd just as soon stay home and play for the Beatrice Bruins this summer. I about fell over, and I was so happy, believe me. Moving on to the end of Alex's career with the Kansas City Royals, I've always often been asked, you know, who's the best player that you ever had? With the Bruins, did it for 40 years, coached over 1,000 players, close to 400 of which made it to the pro level. 36 of that 400 made it clear to the major leagues. And there were some really good players there that I'm sure all of you would recognize. But, you know, if I had to pick one out of the 1,000, that guy right there was the best player I ever coached, Alex Gordon. I'm not going to go into any bunch of details about the 8 gold gloves that he won, and then the 2 platinum gloves that he won, which goes to 1 in each league as the most outstanding defensive player at any position. You know, that's just awesome. And quite honestly, great a player as Alex Gordon was, and probably still could be, he's a better person, and I put big time value on what I call makeup of people. As a scout, that's what we call it. He's as good as it gets. Anytime I've ever asked Alex for anything as far as signing stuff, whatever, he never complains, comes up with excuses. He just does it. I got him on East O Street one time. I said, where are you at? He goes, I'm just driving in my car down East O Street. I said, I'm in a filling station off of 70th and O. Could you slip by here and sign a couple things? And he signed about 50 things. And then I went out to his brother's house, clear on the east edge of Lincoln. One time, same deal, only this time I brought 120 items, and he helped me carry them back to the car. And one thing he did ask, he said, would it be possible to give one of these 16 by 20s to my brother? And I said, you know, we can probably do that. Anyway, I don't want to go into all his accolades and accomplishments because it'd take a long time, but needless to say, this guy belongs in the Nebraska Hall of Fame, and he'll soon be in the Kansas City Royals Hall of Fame. Alex Gordon.
Well, thanks, Bob. I got the privilege to play with Bob for 2 seasons, one in high school for the NBC, and like he said, one time after my freshman year in college. And there's 2 things I remember about Bob Steinkamp. After every game, he encouraged us, if we had a good game, he'd take us to Pizza Hut. So that was his little motivation to us. And you know, he was just a great coach that had a lot of fun, and you know, I thank him for everything he did for me over my career. So thank you, Bob. I want to thank the rest of the committee for the selection here today. I want to congratulate all the other inductees for the selection too. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. This is a tremendous honor for me and my family. So thank you very much. You know. You know, my baseball career started at a very young age. I started playing for the Lincoln Rebels, which a lot of you may know now, even though there's like 100 teams now in select baseball. That was a big part of my career growing up. I started there, and then I moved on to Lincoln Southeast, which is way better than Creighton Prep. So I had the privilege to have Coach Brohorst and Mike Dobb as one of my 2 main coaches there. And I know Jeff Christie already told about this story, but A big turning point in my career was when, as a lot of kids, as a lot of people here today, growing up as a kid that loved baseball, my goal was to make the major leagues. And I kind of had a sniff of that in high school, and I thought that was going to happen, and it never did. And that's kind of something that happened in my career that gave me extra motivation to end up going to the University of Nebraska and pushing myself to get to where I thought I was going to be, that I never got and eventually got. So after Southeast, I was lucky enough to go to the University of Nebraska. I want to thank the coaches for being here tonight. Childers, Will Bolt, Curtis Ledbetter, Jeff Christie. It means a lot. You know, Will Bolt's here today, and I couldn't think of a better head coach for the University of Nebraska right now. So I know that the baseball team's in good hands. I grew up as a kid actually loving LSU baseball. That's where I wanted to go play baseball, just hitting home runs and everything like that. But I will say around my freshman, sophomore year in high school, I noticed the baseball team doing really well. I know it was because of guys like Will Bolt. It was because of guys like Jeff Leisey. They really set the standard at Nebraska and made it a really easy decision for me to go there. So thank you guys for doing that. Dave Van Horn actually recruited me to go to Nebraska, which I never got the privilege to play with him, but I'll tell the story about it. It was the first day you could sign at the university, and he came to my house, and my mom knows this story. He came in, and this is after they went to back-to-back World Series, and there was rumors that he was going to go to Arkansas, and I sat down there, and we had a little half an hour discussion, and I asked him, I was like, hey, there's rumors that you're going to go to Arkansas. Is this true? And he's like, no, I love Nebraska. This is where I want to be. And he was like, well, this is where my family's at. This is where I want to be. So I'll sign right now if you'll let me. And he was like shocked. He was like, are you serious? It's the first day. You don't want to go anywhere else? And I was like, no, this is where I want to be. So let's do it. And he's like, okay, let's do it. But I did say before I signed, I was like, you promise me you're not going anywhere? He's like, yes, sir. And then, so I signed, and we left, had a nice handshake, and then a week later he was gone. So, but I was lucky enough to have guys like Coach Childers and Mike Anderson step in, Andy Sawyers. So I was in good hands. I knew this is where I want to be. It had nothing to do with Dave Van Horn. I love Nebraska. I knew this was my home, so I wanted to stay close by. But like I said, Childers and Anderson took over, and I got a good story about Childers. So the first day at Nebraska, I think it was, my roommate was Rob Morrissey, and we had a little meeting, and we showed up 5 minutes early because we slept through the alarm clock, which was Rob's fault. And we showed up, and we got what was called the Breakfast Club at the time. And I didn't know what that was, and I think it was the next day. So Rob Childers is like, okay, show up to the football stadium at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and then we'll get started. And I was coming out of high school. I was like waking up at 9 o'clock every morning. I was like, 5 o'clock in the morning? Are you kidding me? So we woke up. I had about 2 Pop-Tarts, went to the university, and then did the Breakfast Club. What I didn't know what the Breakfast Club was you touch every stair in the stadium, and then you do log rolls down and back on the football field. And I think I puked up every Pop-Tart I had. But I will say to this day, I'm always 30 minutes early to everything I go to, so you taught me something good. Yeah. That was the one thing that I wish I had more of. All the guys talk about Rob Childers, and obviously he was our pitching coach, and what a great guy that is. So I wish I got to spend more time with him at the university as far as working with the game of baseball. So thank you, Rob, for everything. So the most important thing is, I think you get to this stage in your life and you start getting these awards and these inductions, you have to surround yourself with great people, which I've already talked about a little bit. But the biggest part of my baseball story is my family, which is sitting here tonight. I came from a baseball family. I had 3 brothers, and I feel like everything that we did had to surround the game of baseball. We were either outside playing with the wiffle ball, playing home run derby, playing catch. It was a 24/7 thing that we did. I had 2 younger brothers, but really, one of the most important person in my life And the reason I'm kind of here today is my older brother, Eric. You know, it was someone I looked up to when I was growing up, and as all brothers know, we always got in fights and everything, but I was lucky enough to put on his teams, which he was 3 years older than me at the time, growing up, and that kind of jump-started my career a little bit. And then my freshman year in high school, I got to play on the J.C. Braggart team, which was his team. He was a senior, and I got to join that. But he was someone I looked up to, someone that always pushed me. And you know, if I ever had a question about baseball and even about life, the first person I picked up the phone and I called was my brother Eric. So thank you for everything that you did. I want to thank my mom and my dad. Unfortunately, my dad's passed away in 2018, but like I said, we just had a baseball family, and there's nothing that my dad wouldn't do for me growing up. You know, anytime I asked him to go play baseball, go throw the ball as high as you could, you know, a pop-up and see if I could catch it, he'd do it in a heartbeat. He never had any excuses. I know my brother can comment on this story, but across from Sherman Field in Lincoln, we'd always go hit, and my dad worked 9 to 5, and we'd always say, "Hey, Dad, let's go hit across the field at Sherman," and he'd show up, you know, after getting off his work shift and just go right to the mound and start throwing. He'd throw to each one of our brothers for about 2 hours, and it was like 500 pitches, no L screen, which I don't get why he didn't do that, but he never had a complaint, never, just did everything for us. So something that he invalued in me was hard work, and anything I would have done in my life, I would have thought I would have been successful, because what he taught me was hard work and never give up. So I know he's down looking, and happy that I'm here today. So I want to thank my mom. She was that crazy woman in the stands that you're in the dugout and you hear the woman yelling. That was my mom at all the games, but it was always positive. It was nothing ever negative. She was always upbeat. She had a fun attitude. She taught me to be humble all the time, which at the time, I grew up, I always had success in baseball, but as I got older and the competition got better, just like in life, in baseball, you're going to deal with failure, you're going to deal with adversity, and I really think that the reason I got through some of the things I did in my life was because of my mom's attitude and outlook on life. So thank you, Mom. Love you. I want to thank my family. They're not here. I brought one representative here today, Sam, who is the best dressed person here today. They have been my biggest fans, in my Kansas City career. They came to every one of my games. They always motivated me, but they always taught me that baseball is just a game, and no matter how you do, no matter how my games went, if I 0 for 4, 4 for 4, I knew after the game I was coming home to something special, and that was my kids. So they were always my biggest fans, and everyone that always asked me, "Hey, what are you doing now that you're retired?" And I would just tell them I got to sit back and do what my dad, just enjoy life and work with these kids. So I love these guys. I love Sam. I love my family, and they were my biggest supporters. So I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. This is an amazing event. I want to thank the community again, and just the game of baseball. Just love it. So thank you guys.